The ending of FNAF World Update 2 set up the next main villain of the next FNAF game, FNAF's Sister Location. Sister Location then came out, and Baby was a very interesting villain, and the story of the game was really cool. However, then FNAF 6 came out, and Baby appeared again, but then we got a lot of insight into the type of character that she is. But all of a sudden, everyone was killed, or at least it seemed that way at the time. Whether or not those characters are actually gone is debatable, see my video on the topic if you want my take, but that doesn't matter for this video. Books like The Fourth Closet even further expanded on the type of character that Baby is. I've done videos like this on characters like William, Michael, and the Bite Victim where I essentially explain the FNAF timeline from their perspective and explain the brilliance of their character. These videos are obviously not entirely correct. They're based around how these characters would be affected if my FNAF timeline is to be believed, which you can go watch if you want to. You don't have to believe the theory, and if you don't, which based on the comments on my timeline, I know a lot of people don't believe this specific part of the theory, but in that case, you can just try to think of this video as something that's just for fun. While I believe the theory, you can just think of it as an alternate opinion, and whether you agree or not, you should just watch the video for the purpose of trying to enjoy it rather than expecting something that's 100% canon. So now, let's get started on my FNAF timeline from the perspective of Elizabeth Afton. Elizabeth Afton had been conceived sometime in late 1982 or early 1983 and was born in the back half of 1983 shortly after the Bite of 83. In preparation for her birth, Afton and his second wife had set up her bedroom, but when she was born, they had moved into a different house, the same one William had used to torture his youngest son who was now dead. The house was a really somber and upsetting place. Elizabeth's family living in it weren't the best people to be around, especially when growing up. Her brother Michael had just murdered his brother and felt extremely guilty about it. Her father was a psychotic murderer who soon enough would murder even more children, and her mother was just the one trying to keep the family together. Oftentimes William and his wife would be busy with work, leaving Michael to take care of her. Michael had already made a mistake when it came to failing to protect his younger sibling, so never would he make that mistake again. Despite both of her parents being around, Elizabeth was essentially raised by her brother Michael. The lack of attention from her real parents, more so her father, was kind of jarring for her as she grew up. She always craved attention from her father as she grew up. She always did whatever she could to make him proud. Eventually, her parents ended up getting a divorce, and she took her dad's side. However, William manipulated her and made her say awful things about her mother, things that weren't even true, to get custody of her. There were two ways that she could look at this. She could either be sad when her mother unalived herself in response to the awful thing William did, or she could be happy that her father went through so much trouble to get custody. It really seemed to Elizabeth like he truly cared about her. Years went by and Elizabeth grew up. She was about 10 or 11 years old when her dad began working on the Funtime group of animatronics for his upcoming restaurant, Circus Baby's Pizza World, in the aftermath of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza shutting down. Elizabeth loved the main character of Circus Baby. She was being built by William and Elizabeth's image, but she and the other Funtimes were equipped with a bunch of murderous features. Elizabeth mistakenly assumed that this animatronic was more than just made in her image. She thought that the Circus Baby animatronic was made for her. When Circus Baby's Pizza World opened up, Elizabeth snuck away from William, who had just continued to tell her to stay away from Circus Baby. But Elizabeth was a naive little girl who just wanted to play with Circus Baby. These characteristics were what led her to go up to Circus Baby when she was alone, and Circus Baby lured her closer with ice cream and then shot a claw out of her chest and killed Elizabeth. But Elizabeth's story doesn't end there. Elizabeth's spirit ended up possessing the Circus Baby animatronic, and her soul kind of merged with Circus Baby's programming. Because of this, she was able to recall her death from both the perspective of herself and the perspective of Circus Baby. Even in death, Elizabeth still just wanted to make her dad proud, but her dad threw her and the other Funtimes in the facility underneath their house, now called Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental. Elizabeth and Baby both hated it down here. She hated that she was trapped. She'd gotten out before, but they always put her back. They always put her back inside. She was trapped underground until her brother Michael Afton came to work in the facility. Circus Baby manipulated Michael into trusting her, and on his final night working at the facility, she lured him into a false sense of security and lured him to the scooping room, where the large remnant-injecting scooper shot straight into his abdomen. Baby had spent the week getting the other animatronics scooped and entangling their endoskeletons and wires in her own, creating a being known as Ennard, which promptly dug into Michael's body, pulling out all his bones and innards to make room for Ennard to squeeze inside. The body was packed full of Elizabeth, the baby AI, Michael Afton, the children that William Afton murdered, and eventually Michael's body began rotting, and Ennard left it and escaped into the sewers. The missing children were growing more aware and kicked Baby out of Ennard, and she was forced to rebuild herself with scraps. Even after all this time, Elizabeth still wanted to make her dad proud. 29 years after her death, and she still wanted to make her dad proud. Eventually, she found her way to a Freddy Fazbear building that had seemed to be calling her. When she made it there, she was reunited with Ennard, who was now Molten Freddy, her brother Michael, who was still alive and back to normal, though much older now, and best of all, Elizabeth was able to reunite with her father. Her father attacked Michael, and she attacked Michael. Elizabeth believed that Michael was a gift for all of them, and she vowed that she would make her father proud. We all know the rest. That's essentially the whole FNAF timeline from the perspective of Elizabeth Afton. Whether or not Elizabeth is back in the modern era of FNAF is questionable, but I think that if she was, it would be really cool. If Elizabeth ended up sticking around after William dies, whether that's already happened or will in the future, it'd be kinda cool to see Elizabeth continue to be a villain to continue her father's legacy, keep making him proud even in his death. I feel like Elizabeth is one of the few characters in the series with good main villain potential. I used to think that she would end up being the main villain, but most of the ideas surrounding that don't work anymore. I don't really think anymore that Elizabeth would be a main villain going forward, I just think that it would be really cool if she was. Elizabeth's character is kind of based around the fact that she doesn't get the attention she feels she deserves from her father. That line during the FNAF 6 ending initially proved this point, and the Fourth Closet further confirmed it. While Elizabeth in the Fourth Closet runs on a very different storyline, she's still essentially the same character. She's a sweet and innocent girl with the burning desire to make her father proud, and that desire, along with the murderous AI she's attached with, corrupts her and makes her evil. She's kind of like the Yellow Jacket in the first Ant-Man movie. I really like Elizabeth as a character, and I love how she's expanded on in the Fourth Closet. In the Fourth Closet, William pays more attention to Charlie than he does to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth feels immense anger towards Charlie for essentially stealing her thunder. She just wants her father's love, but unfortunately for her, love from her father is in very short supply. But what do you guys think? How do you feel about the character of Elizabeth Afton? Do you like her as a character? Do you find her to be a sort of sympathetic character? Let me know in the comments, and if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys!